NAIOP is a leading real estate industry association. Their stated goal is to develop solutions for the changing demands for how people live, work, shop, and play. NAIOP sponsors an annual student real estate challenge where students are tasked with creating an investment proposal for a development site. This year, the teams worked on a former Bank of America retail location in Seattle, and the team from the University of Washington came on to share their experiences about the competition. Okay, welcome guys. Thanks for coming on. So can you explain to us what is NAIOP and what was the challenge that you guys did?
So NAIOP is the National Association of Office and Industrial Properties. It's one of the major professional groups in commercial real estate. The Washington chapter specifically is actually really strong. I think it's like the third biggest chapter nationally. Within that community, every year they host a real estate challenge, which pits 3 different schools against each other, and they, project out a development pro forma plus a design aspect of it, and then they pitch it to a panel of judges, and the judges, decide from there. And then the winner hosts one of their yearly breakfast meetings. And it's a really good opportunity to network and meet a lot of the other people across the profession. It is framed towards office and industrial, but I think that there are many different asset classes that get involved specifically with this challenge.
So tell us more. What was this specific challenge you guys did?
This year, the site was an Alexandria Real Estate owned site on East Lake. So it was 1600 East Lake. It was a pretty irregular, small parcel that was sort of surrounded on 2 sides by another Alexandria owned parcel. And what currently sits on a site is a Bank of America branch that's currently being used for COVID tests. But directly behind it is a, I think, 7-story life science building that Alexandria currently owns and is fully occupied. And so the challenge is what to do with this site. And it could be open to anything. It could have been residential, office, traditional office, life science. And so that was really up to the team to determine the highest and best use for that site and make their case for it.
So how did your team come together?
So our team came together kind of after our development studio class in the fall. One of our instructors, Al, started talking about several of the competitions that are available to students. And I chose this one to do and kind of started texting my friends and seeing who was in on it. And they started texting their friends, and we got together a really cool team of really diverse skill sets and backgrounds and so forth. So, it's really an opportunity to work with your friends on something that you want to do, and it's kind of an extra kind of fun time and explore your interests together.
Yeah, started with 5, but 4 survived, so.
So walk us through the event, your whole team, how it went, how you put this together, how long it was.
Actually, this all started, I am responsible for the design part of this entire competition. It was a 13,000 square feet site parcel, and we kind of did the market analysis. Nicole was responsible for doing all the market analysis, and everybody actually. And came up for the highest and best use to be the life science use. And so we explored the zoning code, everything, the permitting and all that stuff, and kind of designed a 5-story building, which could actually serve as a subsidiary use to the building next to it as well. Like, we had some cool features, like a sky bridge connecting that old building to the new building. And then we tapped in the existing parking lot, the existing parking that was below grade parking in the existing building, and kind of connected that into our building, the proposed building, to the below grade parking. So we didn't have to do the extra parking entrance and all that. We kind of made it like a small campus in itself for Alexandria. And our proposal was also, the other cool feature was the entire first floor was retail. So we had food courts and like open seating, open door seating areas and all that, and very high ceilings, and where there's a possibility of doing great interiors to kind of attract people, and they can just grab their food and sit outside or sit inside. So there was a lot of flexibility with the design that could be done for the first floor. And there was this small sort of an alleyway which came up in between the existing building and the new building. So we kind of used that as the outdoor seating space, and proposed that we would treat it in such a way that it's so lively, and it would also serve as a thoroughfare, like a urban design element into the entire campus, or actually into the entire neighborhood. So that's briefly what the design was. And then James and Sean James and Sean did the financial analysis for that. They put in together all the numbers, and then we kind of get there.
Great. So how often did you guys meet, and how long was this duration from when you got it to when you guys finished it?
Yeah, from a logistical perspective, the challenge kind of works throughout the winter quarter. So you kind of start forming your team and meeting with the kind of experts and stuff at the beginning of the winter quarter. And then you kind of work along your process through the middle of the quarter. And then, as everybody's taking finals, you're additionally doing your write-up, you're doing your presentation, you're doing, the video for the breakfast. So there's a lot of things that actually come at the end of the quarter. But we met weekly as a team, and then met separately depending on what functions we were doing. So Sean and I met several times on the finance side. I know Nicole and Satya had meetings with design and other elements of the project. So it's really, I thought it was stepped pretty well throughout the quarter, but I know some students had issues with everything coming to a head at the very end of the quarter, and trying to keep all those balls in the air was kind of tough.
Yeah, and shout out McKenzie Darr, who is also grad of the Runstad program, who organized this whole thing through NAIOP, because she sits on the committee there, and she did an awesome. I mean, it was over 10 weeks, and she had professionals coming in all the time and talking to us, and it was a cool opportunity to network and get some inside information from people and things like that. So, good job, McKenzie.
Great. So you guys are all MSRE students now, graduates. What were the other teams made up of? Who else was there as a makeup of teams?
So we competed against a school from Portland and the University of British Columbia. Not 100% sure of their team makeups. There seemed to be a pretty strong mix of architects and other disciplines. We were all MSRE students, so we were a little bit more focused on our skill sets. Luckily, Satya had a architecture background that kind of helped us along in the design aspect, because I think we would have all been lost without her input into the project. But additionally, my understanding is they have courses dedicated to this project. We did it all on a volunteer basis and kind of a side project. So it is a little bit different in how they approach the competition versus the UW.
Great. So how'd you guys finish up?
Well, we didn't win. I think that something that happened to us is that our proposal actually changed a little bit between our report date and then our presentation date. And that's because by the nature of all things student, we were doing a big chunk of the work towards the end of it. And I think that we realized some of our initial assumptions needed to be shifted slightly. From what I did hear from the judges, I think that we gave one of the better presentations, and I know our video was clearly the best. But I think that some of the inconsistencies between the report and that were a little bit too much to overcome. That being said, the other proposals were also quite good. I mean, everybody did life science, so I think it was in the same vein. The answer was pretty clear, and I think everybody hit it on the head. It was just about who found the exact right solution.
All right. So what were some of the other challenges that you guys had during this? Obviously during COVID, so you couldn't, meet like you probably normally would in years past in person. What were some of the other challenges you guys faced?
I think we spent a lot of time just finalizing what the design was, and not from like an aesthetic perspective, but what's the function of like the ground level retail space that Satya was talking about, and we'd spend some time looking at, general floor plan layouts or massing models, and that I think, working remotely took a little bit more time. We probably could have saved some time if we were in a room and could kind of draw together. But, each of us had slightly different ideas, and trying to get all of that reflected and not have Satya stay up all night trying to sketch that out for us. We spent a little bit of time there, and then once we had the design nailed down, then things moved a lot more quickly. But that's probably the largest effort up front.
Yeah, as you know, a design takes a lot of time. Actually, even drafting or even doing a simple sketch would be easier, but then we had to do it in a presentable format. So that's something that was time consuming. And being the last quarter for all of us, it was kind of an added thing over all the coursework that we were doing. And I would say a big thank you for the entire team, because even at night, 12 o'clock, they were working and they were available for any questions. So that was awesome. So in that way, we kind of tied together in a great way, and we formed a great team, I would think. And it's a great learning opportunity. And the other challenge was communicating the design among ourselves, like Nicole mentioned before. Each of us had different ideas, and then remote working made it a little harder to kind of draft it over onto a concrete platform to show it to everyone. So that was the biggest challenge that I faced while bringing those ideas into a shape.
Yeah, I think that one of our challenges also served as one of our strengths is that we only had 4 people on our team. So for us, it was really easy to get everybody together and pivot and make quick decisions. At the same time, like a large chunk of the work, like Satya did the design by herself. Like she didn't have like 2 or 3 other people in this cohort to help her. I mean, that was just a purely, Satya project. So I think that there was a higher requirement, I guess, in the deliverables for each person. But at the same time, being small made us able to pivot really easily. And I thought that was also a benefit of our group.
Okay, so for teams thinking about doing this in the future, give me an idea. What would you recommend that they do to get set up and to have, build upon what you guys have done? What suggestions should they think about?
I would say design maybe not just can be done by one person, maybe a couple of people to share the responsibility. Like one would concentrate on the presentation part of the design, and the other would like put in ideas. And there's a lot of programming behind that. So if there would have been like a shared responsibility, if it had been a shared responsibility, I would think it would yield a better result. I was not happy with the presentation itself, because I could do all the 3D work, but then the time was the biggest constraint. So we didn't have enough time to do all that, because a 3-dimensional presentation or of the design would consume a lot of time. So if there were 2 people or more, it would have been a shared responsibility, and we could do a better job.
And I'd say Sean was alluding to this, how McKenzie really set up an entire program for this competition. So every Wednesday at lunchtime, we were meeting with different industry experts. And one of the feedback we got from our presentation, while we had met with many of the market leaders that were part of the competition, I think some of the other schools that are not in Seattle relied on them more. And I think that refined their design a little bit more. And that was some of the feedback that we had heard, was that they were in pretty much constant communication with the market experts that were part of this competition. And while we met with them, we also spoke with others that are working in the market and potential tenants and other brokers and things like that. So I just say for next year's team, really focus on the people that are actively involved in the competition.
Yeah, that's good advice. Use the people they give you. And then I would also say just commit to your building idea earlier than we did. I mean, it was like week 6 before we were like, okay, because we did a ton of market analysis about what could possibly work here. And it was like week 6 or 7 that we were like, hey, let's do life science. And if we had just said life science in week 3, which I think we were all leaning towards anyways, then we would have had so much more time to drill down into it a little bit. So that was perhaps a missed opportunity for us as well.
I would like to add my thanks to Al, because he was a great support, and even for my design discussions. And he was always available. I could text him, and I could actually talk to him over the phone because he was very approachable. And so he's a great guy. He's a great advisor. So he was very proud of us. He was very proud of our work, and I'm happy that we gave a very hard fight or tight fight to the Finners. So that's something that we want to take back as an achievement for our team.
Yeah, the two things that I would really think about this process or this challenge is requiring is, one, really looking at design feasibility. Like, we got questioned about a few things that we did in terms of knocking out the garage and putting a sky bridge in, and actually mechanics equipment on the roof. And so really making sure that your design is feasible, and that it kind of checks the box of like, this isn't just something crazy that you didn't do your due diligence on. And then the second part is really doing your due diligence on the inputs to the model. So, as been mentioned in this talk, really reaching out to the experts, talking about them, about the market, about the construction cost, about some engineering challenges, about and the costs associated with those. And I think if you handle those two and bring the experts along in the journey of you kind of putting those topics together, that you'll do really, really well. And I think that's what the winning team did better than we did, from my perspective. And to be successful next year, I think bringing everybody along on the journey would be really good.
Well, good. I'm sure you guys represented us well, and thanks for doing so and representing the department and the university.